Hello boys. I've been away for a while with like the serious videos. I uploaded some videos like 2 days ago. But it's time for me to do a video that I've promised a very long time ago. How to make hard techno like Klangkuenstler, of course. Actually, behind the scenes, I've tried it multiple times, but I've never succeeded until now. I think this video will give you a good explanation as to how you can make a track like Klangkuenstler. Of course, it's not fully accurate seeming. I just do what sounds like him, and I do the transitions that sounds like him, but not everything is the same. Like, I absolutely despise using Reese basses. So instead I use like a 1980s horror movie sub thing, which works amazing if you ask me. But this will give you a bare sort of insights, basics of how to do something like this. Anyways, let's get right into it. So here we have the track. I'm gonna go over it layer by layer, of course, like I usually do. So for the kick, I've decided to just keep it really basic. Just go with a very simple distorted kick. So I found this kick sample in my library somewhere. Might have even made it myself. And it sounds a little bit like this. First of all, added saturation and overdrive. As you can see, the overdrive has some interesting settings. So go on 50 Hertz with 0.50, that's the lowest you can go, sort of depth. And what this does, if you listen carefully, you can immediately hear that big ass sub start to come up behind it. I highly recommend doing this to just boost the subs in your tracks. I found it out on accident and it works great. Use dynamics on 100, drive on 100, and the dry wet on about 25 to 40 usually. Next up we have an amp on a rock. This amplifies a little bit of the highs more and the bass even more, so the bass gets a lot heavier when you're doing these. My main goal is, of course, get a massive sub behind there, so it goes. If that makes any sense. But this also boosts the highs and makes it a little bit crunchy and a little bit sound more playful. So yeah, we do that. Next up, we have a clipper. I use clippers a lot. This one might not seem like it's doing a lot, but I'm using it if I was beforehand I was driving the amp too much, and I used this to sort of cut it off. So I put it minus 420 because why not? And that makes some room for more distortion. Hereby I'm using Nani. I'm not using this as a joke to disrespect women. I honestly do love this one distortion mode. I don't know what it's called, but it's the pink one. It's amazing. I use the drive and color somewhere. I use the drive on max usually, and the color somewhere from the mid to like here to the like 50 to 75% works best. Mix I usually put down. Output I never touch because we want a nice sort of, not too much, but you can definitely hear it once I'm playing it without and with. It sounds a lot more intense immediately. Next up, I am heavy clipping the shit out of this with a lot of soft clipping. And next we have a stereo spreader to make everything sound a little bit more wide. And we have, of course, the utility. Bass mono 176. Always do this, don't ask questions, just do it. Next up, we have the same kick, but here I just slapped a fuckload of reverb on there. Actually, I do need to set this to 167 before I forget. Can't find it, it's fine for now. And I just slapped a bunch of reverb on here, so it sounds like this now. Classic possession, break kick, or whatever you want to call it. It's just gives a very good atmosphere to everything. Next up we have percussion, so we have this one loop I found. Works perfect. I'm of course trying to keep this as simple as you can, just for showing the video, but my projects I actually do are a lot more in depth. But you can go as in depth as you want. I just want to have it very easy to explain for everybody. So this has just some percussion. It's all focused on the 1/8. It's a 4/4 rhythm, of course, but everything is focused on the 1/8 of the drum. That gives it a really good groove with the drum, as you can hear. works flawlessly. And we have another loop, this one, a clap. I didn't even touch the clap at all, it just was perfect. And more open hats. If you put it all together, these elements, you can probably see where I'm starting to go with the Klangkuenstler sound, and the synths define it even more. I've got quite a lot compared to what I usually do. So this is the sort of Reese bass I went for. Very atmospheric and nice. Then we have the sort of main melody playing on top of here. So it's a really, really simple melody, but it sounds great, honestly. For the processing of this, I've used RC20 retro color, which is, you're probably gonna think, what the fuck, why did you use that? I actually love RC20 for two reasons. A sort of old school reverb and a more lo-fi sound that gives certain elements. I actually use it on everything here to give it that more emotional and dramatic feeling. Next up we have, of course, the EQ. Just a simple EQ to boost some of the low mids, which is really odd, but I'll explain that later. And I boosted the 1K on here and not some of the highs, because fuck that. We don't need highs. I mean, these take up all the highs because they're quite aggressive. Next, I've layered this with another synth, which plays the same melody, but a low note as well. This, of course, a Diva patch, Synth Stadium if you want to use it. Oh, actually, I'll show you the Diva patch I used here. It's the Tas Sublime Rage from Tas Modia. It's really great. I think pretty much every French producer has used this before, but I understand why. It's very nice. I can't say a lot more than that. Next up, we just have the. This is actually a main synth, crew member. It's a little bit. So it's actually, it fades in. And this one has quite a bit of automation on here. In the first part, it actually goes from. I actually just put an arpeggiator on it because it sounds quite nice to have an arp going somewhere in the track. I just keep it really basic with the melodies, seeming Klangkuenstler's melodies are usually a 9 or even 8 or even 4 bar loop of just a simple chord progression going on. And he just swaps out synths in and out and puts on an arpeggiator and goes back to something. It's quite fun to listen to, but it's not that in-depth as to some other tracks, you know. It has a very specific genre or sound, as you want to call it, and I think he nails it. But for this, RC20, a utility to modulate the volumes to make it sound a little bit more interesting as the song was going on, because it was sounding very plain when I was listening to it. A little bit of an EQ, only needed some of the low mids up, and of course, always cut the lows off unless it's your kick. Auto filter and a Pro R, best reverb for techno. Next up, we have the orchestra. This one is just pretty much all the stereo of the track. It's just a Roland SRX orchestra. I always use this one. It's amazing. Try it out if you like. I think you can get a free try on Roland's website for like 3 to 6 days or something. Pretty much a little bit of the same. This one I only boosted like around 2K. Some more reverb, of course. And this, I just put the utility with the width to 400%. See me, I don't want this to be in like the mids or anything. I just wanted this to be completely sides, because that will compensate the lack of stereo for this thing and give it a more emotional feeling. Last is this sort of horror synth. It's more like an organ, but I was just like I wanted to have a counter melody to the main melody, and I was like, I need to have something that doesn't sound completely in the picture to give it a little bit more chaos, because the sound was sounding just a little bit too clean, so I went for this. And I think in the end it worked out pretty well, so if we play it all together, it sounds a little something like this. That's for the main, for the first sort of drop. And for the second drop, we have this really nice build-up going on. Now everything together. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to tell. Here I actually switch sort of, not octaves, but I just go up a few notes. To give that extra dramatic feeling, if you know what I mean. It just goes from low to... Oh, that's terrible. Okay, but you get the picture what I mean. For the end, I just cut off pretty much everything. The arrangement is like the most basic thing ever. I just fade in a lot of stuff. Just the basic build-up with ads that just come in. And in the end, I actually use the auto filters on everything to just do a nice sweep down. Seeming when I'm playing live, I just grab the filter and just turn it down before the drop, and it works so nice every time. And then just I click the filter again and bam, you have a really nice transition. It's really easy to do in Ableton especially. And just add some DJ tricks to your song. We are lazy. We do not like to do shit like that. So what I do here as well is like the classic tick, tick, tick. When you do it in DAW, it just sounds like perfect. I do this with a lot of my tracks, and people think I'm a really good DJ. Instead, I just make my tracks like a DJ with a DJ mindset. The DJ mindset pretty much is to make tracks that are specifically being designed to be played for DJs, for easy transitions and shit. So always stick to very logical arrangement. That's really easy to play as a DJ, of course. Which, if you play any of my tracks, if you have played any of my tracks live, you will exactly know what I mean. Easiest transitions to do. It just sounds clean as shit. I just stick to one key, no freaky shit. It might sound a little bit boring in some parts, but I think I bring a really good drive to my tracks, which makes my tracks being really nice for the dance floors. I would recommend doing this this mindset as well. Focus your tracks around DJs, because you're making tracks to be played live. You're also playing tracks to be listened, so don't go too far into it. But if you DJ, it's a really, really good idea to start thinking like a DJ when making tracks, because that gives you a very good idea how the arrangement of a track is going to be. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you in this video. All right, I almost forgot. Some people were asking to see my master. I actually keep it surprisingly simple. A lot of people do master in a different track. I find that to just be a little bit too much of a hassle, seeing my workflow is really, really quick. So, we'll explain you how this works. So we have a gain -12, bass mono 167, of course. Sometimes I'm a little bit too lazy to get it on 167 perfectly. There we go. Next up is a smiley curve, which makes your track like a big smiley. As you can see, it has the big smiley, and this is some of the really regular teeth. Just a little bit of a simple EQ. This is a really basic EQ. Just get rid of some of the low mids. I actually got rid of some of the kick, because the kick is insanely big. Boosted the mids and a little bit of the highs as well, but actually I always use a clipper on my master, seeming that gives the extra crunchy highs. Don't overdo this, by the way, it will fuck up your track in a lot of ways. I'm using a little bit of soft clipping, and I took a little bit of the volume out because it was going a little bit too much above this line. It started to clip actually, and I also took some of the gain off. After that, just span to of course see what they're doing. I think this little bit has some resonances, but I don't really care. It sounds good. If it sounds good, it is good, in my opinion. Took some of the mids off and bass mono. Also, one thing I'm gonna tell you, the low mids dip is only applicable to like heavy and driving techno, but once you get into the really hard kicks, you need low mid. The low mids, it makes like sound, you know? Actually, if I'm gonna show you one of my tracks now that released yesterday. Yesterday as to recording this video. Today it's the 25th, this released 24th. You can hear this nasty ass kick. And this kick is very aggressive on the low mids, but I baked the dip later. But for this track, it wasn't even needed a low mids dip, honestly. But for some tracks, I should have done a low mids dip, like Against the Sound. This one has a terrible mix. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.